This weekend, America celebrates 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's a remarkable milestone, and one that deserves more than fireworks and parades. It deserves reflection. There was a time in my own life when I took many of the freedoms I enjoy for granted. I don't anymore. The older I get, the more I recognize how extraordinary it is to live in a place where we can speak our minds, question authority, worship according to our conscience, pursue our dreams, create something from nothing, and shape our own lives. Those freedoms have never been perfect, but they have always been precious. I am proud to be an American, and I don't say that lightly. History often remembers the signatures on the Declaration of Independence. It remembers the battles that followed. It remembers the birth of a nation. What history rarely records is that freedom is never finished. Every generation inherits it. Every generation defines it. Every generation decides whether it will strengthen it or slowly surrender it. That isn't only true of nations. It's true of every human life. Political independence can be declared in a document. Inner independence is earned one decision at a time. It arrives the first time we stop living according to someone else's expectations. The first time we refuse to let fear make our decisions. The first time we realize that approval is a poor substitute for integrity. The first time we stop outsourcing our thinking because it is easier than asking difficult questions. Freedom has a cost. It asks us to think, to discern instead of simply reacting, to accept responsibility instead of blaming everyone else, to recognize that rights and responsibilities have always traveled together. Perhaps that is why freedom has always been so fragile. It isn't usually lost all at once. It fades whenever comfort becomes more important than courage, whenever convenience replaces responsibility, whenever we become so certain that we're right that curiosity disappears. I think we're living in one of those moments. Not because one political party is right and another is wrong. Not because one generation understands and another doesn't. But because we are all being challenged to remember something essential. Freedom was never simply the absence of chains. It is the presence of character. It is the willingness to govern ourselves before demanding that others govern differently. It is the quiet discipline of asking, am I living according to my deepest values, or am I simply being carried along by the loudest voices around me? That question has no political party. It belongs to every one of us. As I look across the world today, I see billions of people longing for peace, security, purpose, and belonging. Those are universal desires. But I also see something else. I see how easily we hand away pieces of ourselves. We surrender our attention to algorithms. We surrender our peace to endless outrage. We surrender our identity to tribes that promise certainty. We surrender our joy while waiting for the world to become exactly what we think it should be. And little by little, we become less free without ever noticing the exchange. Perhaps every generation is called to fight for liberty in its own way. Not always on battlefields. sometimes in conversations, sometimes in forgiveness, sometimes in refusing hatred, sometimes in protecting another person's right to disagree, sometimes in having the courage to stand quietly in our own convictions without demanding that everyone else echo them. 250 years ago, a group of imperfect people declared that human beings were created to live free. That declaration is still echoing. Not because history is asking us to repeat it, but because life keeps asking us to embody it. As we celebrate America's birthday this weekend, my hope is that we also celebrate the quieter forms of independence that shape a meaningful life. The freedom to grow, to change, to question honestly, to forgive, to speak with integrity, to create, to love, and to become more fully ourselves. Those freedoms are renewed every morning. And perhaps that is the real invitation of this anniversary. Not simply to celebrate the birth of a nation, but to ask ourselves whether we are becoming the kind of people who know what to do with the gift of freedom once it has been placed in our hands. Most of what I write lives on Substack if you want to go deeper. Meet me there at tendingtheinbetween.substack.com.